Okay. So it's
What do you
so
understand?
right there.
Right here?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's October 29th, 2010, and we're at Mom and Dad's place in Millsboro on Timber Creek Lane, and Dad's gonna tell us a little bit about these photos of his father. So go ahead, Dad.
Okay, this is a little story of aviation. The gentleman on the upper left is my father. He was flying in a Kellett autogyro, a predecessor of helicopters, about 5,700 feet. And the one who took the picture could have been Bill McCormick, who was the first one to fly nonstop, well, not nonstop, but fly across the U.S. in an autogyro 2 years before Amelia Earhart did. She thought she was the first one, but she wasn't. And the one down on the right here is my father with an experimental autogyro. And also that same autogyro you'll see down here at the lower right. If you can focus on it, on the lower left, there is an autogyro delivering mail to the Philadelphia Post Office from the Philadelphia airport. And that is a wingless autogyro. Before that, they had wings. And this is part of the evolution of aviation. You can hardly see the one in the left center, which is the Kellett autogyro.
The KD1.
KD1 autogyro. Yeah. And that is, and these are fabric covered aircraft.
Well, what year were these taken?
It's in the 30s.
30s?
Yes.
Was he working for Vertol then, Dad?
No, the Vertol bought, well, this is before Pisaki.
You gotta share.
This is Kellett.
You gotta share.
Then he worked with Pisaki during the war, and they developed the helicopters at that time. And that is when, later on, that Boeing Vertol bought the Pisaki aircraft. And it became Boeing Vertol.
How did your dad come to work for Pisaki?
Well, Pisaki heard of him because he needed someone to develop his first helicopter, and they did it in a garage in Roxborough. And they took an old frame of a Navy airplane, an old tubular frame, and they put this together. The hard design was the rotor hub. The engineers were busy doing that. And they had, for an anti-torque rotor for the transmission, they used a motorboat transmission, the bottom of it. And this is my father in his later years inspecting. This is after he became shop superintendent. He was working for Pruitt Aircraft, and they were building helicopter rotor blades. And he died doing this. In that position there, that's
really?
That's when he died, yeah.
Was the autogyro the precursor to the helicopter?
Yeah. The autogyro had a freewheeling rotor blades. And the way they got that activated, that's a helicopter. The way they got that activated is they had a regular they call it tractor engine, like an airplane engine. They'd rev that up, the wind from it would rotate the blades. They'd take a short run, a very short run, and then they go up like at a 45-degree angle. But then they design what they call a jump. This is evolution now. Then they design what they call a jump takeoff. They put a drive shaft up to the rotor blades so it could jump almost like a helicopter off the ground. Okay, so that was propelled. Then later on they developed the helicopter from that. And that is a Pisaki helicopter, and it's one that I experimented with. Those rotor blades were were built by Pruitt, the company that my father had worked with. And the thing to stick them up on the top of those rotor blades are slip rings that took the strain gauge signals from the rotor blades down into the instrumentation. and we experimented with those rotor blades.
And these photos, where were they taken at? These and the ones before?
Well, what?
Where were they located?
This was at Philadelphia Airport.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm sorry. This was the Naval Air Experimental Station near the Philadelphia Airport.
And how about the one where your father's lining up the blades, balancing the blades?
That was in Pruitt. It's a suburban Philadelphia.
And then these earlier photos were all, where were they taken?
I don't know exactly where. They flew most of these aircraft out of the Philadelphia Airport. And a lot of the trips was from the Philadelphia Airport, a lot of longer trips to Dayton, Ohio, to demonstrate with the Army. At that time, it was the Army Air Corps before the Air Force diverted. So they sold these to the Army mostly.
Tell me the name of the pilot that you think may have taken this picture in the upper left hand.
Bill McCormick.
Bill McCormick, and you flew with him, didn't you?
No, I flew. The fellow who, when I was around 7 years old, my father got me a flight from a farm in New Jersey because they had to fly the aircraft there. The airport at that time was flooded. It was the Philadelphia Airport. It was 6 foot underwater, under sea level, and they built that up to 6 foot above it later on. But at that time, after the flood receded, he gave me a ride. The guy's name was Bill McCormick, who flew in Admiral Byrd's expedition.
Oh.
And we flew from the farm in New Jersey to the Philadelphia Airport. And my dad did not want me to fly in an inline, like that's a cockpit in front of another. He was afraid I'd jump out. So
were you prone to jumping out, things like that?
I had no intention of doing that. I mean, it wasn't crazy, But he kind of thought I was nuts, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, the one he flew was a Pitcairn autogyro, and that was a competitor, and that was a side by side. So I was sitting right beside this guy.